Jay-Z was never my hype man. I mean, I've never had a hype man. That's something I never was really into. What it was he just came on stage and rhymed to the crowd while I was changing clothes. A way of paying homage, like saying, he remember, me going through what he going through.
Right. Well, you mentioned in a previous interview that Jay-Z had a Tupac diss record that never got released.
Yeah, never.
Jay came at him. He was dealing with his mother dying.
Damn.
So I think that kind of helped
it.
fuel that.
Big Daddy Kane gave Jay-Z his first major platform, a rare cosign that opened real doors in New York. But as Jay's star rose, Kane's name slowly faded, and he wasn't the only one. From Nas and DMX to Fat Joe and Big Pun, once close allies became distant, some by choice, others by silence. Was it business, strategy, or something unspoken? This is the untold story of how Jay-Z's rise may have come with more closed doors than we ever realized.
So have you ever had a sit down after your beef with Jay or even Irv Gotti?
Let's dive into this. In the early 1990s, Big Daddy Kane was one of the biggest names in New York hip-hop. Known for his smooth delivery and sharp lyrics, he had the respect of both the streets and the industry. At that time, a young rapper from Brooklyn named Jay-Z was still trying to break into the game. He had talent, but no deal, no stage, no major exposure. Kane saw something in him. He started bringing Jay-Z on tour not as a hype man, but more like a guest. During his shows, Kane would give Jay a few minutes to freestyle in between his own sets. It was a big opportunity. Back then, a cosign like that meant everything. It told the crowd, this guy is next.
I see that a lot in magazines, but no, that's not true. Jay-Z was never my hype man.
That gesture opened doors for Jay-Z. It put him in front of audiences, it gave him experience, and it gave him credibility. At that time, Jay had already been turned down by several labels and had few people willing to bet on him. Kane did, but years later, the relationship between them seemed distant, and not just because they went in different directions. In an interview, Kane expressed disappointment that Jay-Z had rarely acknowledged him publicly. He clarified that he wasn't looking for a handout, but simply a nod of respect. For someone who had once opened a door for him, Kane said the lack of recognition felt off. Fans have claimed that his second album, In My Lifetime Volume 1, released in 1997, sounded very different from Reasonable Doubt, his gritty 1996 debut. While Reasonable Doubt focused on hustling and street ambition, Volume 1 leaned into emotional themes: trust, betrayal, reflection, and legacy. Songs like You Must Love Me, Lucky Me, and Streets Is Watching revealed a more personal, vulnerable Jay-Z. Some fans and commentators noticed the shift in tone and drew parallels to Tupac's emotional intensity, especially on albums like Me Against the World. Despite his early support, Kane's name appears sparsely in Jay-Z's public narrative. Few interviews mention him, and credits are minimal considering his foundational role. And in a genre like hip-hop, where lineage, cosigns, and respect matter. By the early 2000s, Jay-Z had become one of the most powerful figures in music. With Roc-A-Fella Records, executive roles at Def Jam, and a growing empire, he was reshaping what it meant to be a rapper. But some of the people who had played a role in his foundation felt like they had been written out of the story.
Jay-Z's not the same Jay-Z that he was before. He's grown, he's matured, he's acting his wage, like, how I like to say, acting his wage.
Despite this, Kane has consistently shown respect for Jay-Z's skills and success. He's made clear that he isn't bitter, just honest about how quickly hip-hop can forget. Their story is a classic case of what happens when protégés outgrow their mentors. In hip-hop, recognition isn't just courtesy, it's currency. Jay-Z and Tupac were never close. Unlike Tupac's infamous feuds with Biggie, Nas, and Mobb Deep, his relationship with Jay-Z was never front-page beef, but there was tension in the air. Tupac was known to be wary of rising East Coast rappers as coastal tensions escalated in the mid-1990s. While no direct disses toward Jay-Z were released in Tupac's lifetime, some fans have speculated that unreleased verses may have contained subliminals possibly aimed at Jay-Z, though there's no confirmed diss track or direct mention. Jay-Z, for his part, kept a careful distance from the East Coast versus West Coast war. In interviews years later, he acknowledged the heavy atmosphere of the mid-90s and the caution many New York artists adopted during that time. Some critics noted a shift in Jay-Z's lyrical tone following Tupac's death. His second album, In My Lifetime Volume 1, released in 1997, leaned into more emotional and introspective themes: trust, betrayal, and reflection. A notable departure from the hustler grit of Reasonable Doubt. 1996. Tracks like You Must Love Me and Lucky Me sparked comparisons to Tupac's emotionally charged delivery on albums like Me Against the World. While Jay-Z never acknowledged Tupac as a direct influence, the timing of his evolution invited speculation. The fact remains, Jay-Z never publicly disrespected Tupac, and Tupac never named Jay-Z in any confirmed diss. But the space PAC left behind was unmistakable, and Jay-Z, with his evolving lyrical approach and growing influence, stepped forward just as that vacuum opened. In hindsight, their near collision feels more symbolic than direct. Two titans circling the same territory, separated by timing, geography, and fate. On the surface, Jay-Z and the notorious B.I.G. were close. They shared a Brooklyn bond, traded verses on Brooklyn's finest, and even spoke about doing a joint album together. It was a best of both worlds concept long before Jay-Z later repurposed the idea with R. Kelly. In interviews, both men expressed admiration for each other's lyricism, but beneath the surface, their friendship was more layered. In the mid-1990s, Jay-Z was still a rising force. Biggie, on the other hand, was already a chart-topping icon under the Bad Boy label. Jay had just launched Reasonable Doubt on his independent imprint Roc-A-Fella Records. Although Reasonable Doubt is now considered a classic, it didn't receive the same commercial attention at the time, especially compared to Biggie's Life After Death rollout and Bad Boy's dominance on the charts.
Better rap career than Jay-Z. I think he's the bar. Nothing else changed except Biggie was not here.
Right.
It would be the best rap album we've heard ever.
Released less than a year after Biggie's death, Jay-Z's track, The City Is Mine, was met with raised eyebrows. Over a smooth sample of Glenn Frey's You Belong to the City, Jay-Z rapped, "They thought I'd fall without you, but I'm on top. I got this locked." To many, it sounded like he was claiming Brooklyn and New York rap for himself. The timing struck some as inappropriate. Biggie had just been laid to rest, and here was Jay-Z appearing to stake his claim as the new king. Writers like Dream Hampton and Elliot Wilson have discussed how Jay-Z's moves following Biggie's death felt more like a quiet coronation than a tribute. In the years after Biggie passed, there was a clear shift in industry affiliations. Jay-Z's profile rose rapidly, while many of Biggie's close associates, such as Lil Cease and other members of Junior MAFIA, remained loyal to Diddy and the Bad Boy camp. They never crossed into Roc-A-Fella territory, drawing subtle lines between the two legacies. There was some industry overlap, particularly with Lance Un Rivera, who had worked closely with Biggie and later focused more attention on Jay-Z. This shift added to speculation that Jay-Z was stepping into the position Biggie once held, not just as an artist, but as a power broker within the New York hip-hop industry. Then came the 1999 incident at the Kit Kat Club in Manhattan. Jay-Z was accused of stabbing Lance Un Rivera during a Q-Tip album release party. The alleged motive was Rivera's suspected involvement in leaking Jay-Z's volume. 3. Life and Times of S. Carter album before its release. Jay-Z eventually pled guilty to a misdemeanor and was sentenced to 3 years probation. Years later, Rivera publicly stated that Jay-Z did not stab him, though the event had already left a permanent mark on Jay-Z's reputation. By the early 2000s, Jay-Z was unquestionably the face of New York rap. From The City Is Mine to Hard Knock Life, his dominance on the charts and in the business world was undeniable. But even as he rose, the loyalty lines remained visible. Junior, M.A.F.I.A., and Biggie's closest allies stayed tethered to Bad Boy. Jay-Z never became part of that inner circle, nor did he attempt to absorb it into his empire. Jay-Z and Biggie's bond, though genuine in parts, may have been shaped as much by competition and succession as it was by brotherhood. In Biggie's absence, Jay-Z didn't just fill a void, he built a throne of his own. The feud between Nas and Jay-Z became one of hip-hop's most defining rivalries. It escalated in 2001 when Jay-Z released Takeover from The Blueprint. The track targeted both Nas and Mobb Deep, with lines that questioned Nas's recent output and attempted to discredit his legacy. Jay-Z rapped that Nas had only one hot album every 10-year average, referring to Illmatic while dismissing the rest of his catalog. Nas responded with Ether, a fierce and calculated diss track. In it, he accused Jay-Z of mimicking rap icons, inflating his street credibility, and riding the coattails of mentors like Jazzo and Big Daddy Kane. The now famous line, "You've been on my D, you love my style," cut straight into the core of Jay-Z's public persona, portraying him as envious and unoriginal.
Nas drops Ether. You get mentioned 3 times in that song.
Yeah.
Ether and Takeover sparked intense fan debate and dominated radio conversations. Hot 97, particularly Angie Martinez's show, conducted listener polls where Ether emerged as the overwhelming favorite. The public perception shifted quickly. Many felt that Nas had dealt a more personal and devastating blow, especially given Jay-Z's subsequent release, Super Ugly. On that track, Jay-Z mentioned an alleged affair with Nas's baby mother, a move that was seen by some as crossing the line. Even Jay-Z's own mother reportedly urged him to apologize. Despite the ferocity of their lyrical battle, both artists continued to release critically acclaimed work during the feud. Nas's Stillmatic marked a comeback, while Jay-Z's Blueprint solidified his commercial dominance. Their rivalry wasn't just about insults, it represented a clash of styles, backgrounds, and philosophies. Jay-Z symbolized calculated business moves and polished delivery, while Nas stood for street-level poetry and introspection. By 2005, the feud had run its course. The two reconciled publicly at the I Declare War concert in Madison Square Garden. Jay-Z brought Nas out as a surprise guest, and the two performed Dead Presidents and The World Is Yours. It was a symbolic moment that closed a major chapter in New York rap history. From that point forward, Jay-Z and Nas appeared on tracks together, including Black Republican and Success. What began as a war of bars and pride ultimately ended in mutual respect. The Nas and Jay-Z feud left behind some of hip-hop's most dissected verses and taught a new generation of MCs that lyrical competition can sharpen legacy rather than destroy it. DMX and Jay-Z initially shared stages and energy, but over time, their relationship fractured. They appeared together on the cover of XXL magazine in 1999 as part of an early Murder Inc. concept alongside Ja Rule, a supergroup that ultimately never materialized due to creative and personal tensions. When Jay-Z became president of Def Jam in 2004, issues escalated. DMX publicly voiced frustration, accusing Jay-Z of failing to support him.
You know, I go to do the 6th album. And, you know,
Jay-Z became president.
Yeah. Got the job. He hit me with the call like, yo, dog, inmates is running the building like, yo, you good? Finish the album, shoot the video. What happened? Let's go on vacation.
Despite the rift, Jay-Z reportedly cleared DMX's remaining contractual obligations when DMX left Def Jam. While no public record confirms a $12 million debt being forgiven, it's documented that Jay-Z signed off on DMX's exit without legal entanglements. Some insiders viewed this as an olive branch, others as a corporate move to clear the roster. Either way, it marked the quiet end of a once powerful alliance. In the mid-90s, few names were buzzing louder on New York streets than Jay-Z, DMX, and Ja Rule. And behind the scenes, orchestrating this emerging wave stood Irv Gotti. As a producer, tastemaker, and eventually label boss, Gotti wasn't just watching the culture shift, he was engineering it. One of his earliest power plays came in 1996 when he produced Can I Live, a standout track on Jay-Z's debut album Reasonable Doubt. But Irv wasn't done. In that same era, he helped broker a key partnership that changed the trajectory of Jay-Z's career, facilitating Roc-A-Fella's joint venture with Def Jam in 1997. It was a deal that turned Jay from an independent hustler into a major label contender. That set the stage for what could have been a seismic moment in hip-hop history, the formation of a supergroup. Gotti's vision was bold. He wanted to unite Jay-Z, DMX, and J. Rule under one banner, Murder, Inc. What started as chemistry on Mick Geronimo's 1995 track Time to Build evolved into collaborations like It's Murda and Murgram. Irv saw the trio as the three-headed monster that could rule hip-hop. They were the illest, he recalled in interviews, referring to the supergroup that never was. But egos got in the way. According to Irv, and later confirmed by Jay-Z himself, the plan crumbled due to a lack of unity. Jay and X had friction. They both saw themselves as number one, and in a group without a clear leader, competition quickly replaced collaboration. The supergroup quietly died without a single album. Instead, all three men rose individually, carving out their own empires. Jay-Z would dominate the business world. DMX would become the heart of Rough Riders, and Ja Rule would become Murder Inc.'s flagship. But years later, when Murder Inc. found itself under siege, hit with a federal investigation in 2003 over alleged ties to drug lord Kenneth Supreme McGriff, Jay-Z was nowhere to be seen. While Irv and his team fought through legal pressure and federal scrutiny, Jay remained silent. Though Jay-Z never publicly spoke against Irv Gotti or Murder Inc., his absence was noted. Irv never accused Jay directly, but the implication was clear. When the fire got hot, Jay stayed cool and distant. Not betrayal, but certainly not brotherhood.
The line says, Yas went from Jazz to hanging with Kane to Irv to Big.
Over time, the partnership that helped birth a chapter of hip-hop quietly faded. There was no beef, no diss tracks, no public fallouts, just a silent unraveling. Jay-Z rose into corporate rap royalty. Irv Gotti fought through indictments, label shutdowns, and media storms. Their paths, once aligned, diverged, quietly but permanently. And that supergroup, a dream that never got its due. Unlike his open feuds with Ja Rule and The Game, 50 Cent's relationship with Jay-Z played out more like a Cold War, marked by calculated moves, strategic distance, and subliminal jabs. Though the two never exchanged direct diss tracks, their rivalry lingered in lyrics, interviews, and boardroom dynamics. The first public sign of tension came in 1999. At the time, 50 Cent was still breaking into the industry. His buzzworthy track, How to Rob, humorously listed how he'd robbed nearly every major rapper in the game. Though meant as satire, it sparked backlash, including from Jay-Z. That same year, during his Hot 97 Summer Jam performance of It's Hot, Some Like It Hot, Jay-Z responded with a sharp line that's still quoted today. Go against Jigga, your ass is dense. I'm about $1. What the F is 50 Cent? The jab was brief but powerful. Years later, 50 Cent admitted that the line helped elevate his name. In interviews, he explained that before Jay-Z mentioned him, few radio stations were paying attention. He saw the moment as both a diss and a door opener. As 50 Cent's fame skyrocketed in the early 2000s, especially after the release of Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003, Jay-Z was shifting into executive roles. By 2004, he became president of Def Jam, a move that gave him unprecedented industry power. Despite both being New York powerhouses, Jay-Z and 50 Cent rarely collaborated, and their public interactions remained limited. 50 Cent has spoken in interviews about how some in the music industry seemed resistant to G-Unit's rise. He often framed Jay-Z as part of the corporate establishment that wasn't aligned with his aggressive, street-rooted movement. While he never directly accused Jay-Z of blocking him, the mutual coldness was obvious and intentional. In 2011, when Jay-Z and Kanye West released Watch the Throne, 50 offered light criticism, saying the album lacked a street edge, but the comments were more stylistic than personal. By then, the divide between the two had grown wider, Jay-Z moving into luxury business ventures, 50 making his mark in film and television with Power. Despite the underlying rivalry, both men have expressed a degree of respect for each other. In his 2020 book Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, 50 Cent praised Jay-Z's long game mentality, implying that Jay-Z is great at positioning. He moves quietly and always ends up on top. Jay-Z, while rarely mentioning 50 Cent directly, spoke generally about competition in a 2009 Hot 97 interview. In the end, their story wasn't about personal betrayal or public battles. It was about power. Two titans representing different strategies, different circles, and different brands of success. Jay-Z played chess in boardrooms. 50 Cent moved like a general on the streets. Neither blinked, both conquered. Fat Joe and Big Pun, key figures from the Bronx, had a complicated relationship with Jay-Z. The tension wasn't based on diss tracks or direct confrontation, but on borough pride and industry circles. Joe and Pun were aligned with Bronx crews and DJs who had long-standing connections to Biggie and Tupac, while Jay-Z was rising from Brooklyn through a different set of alliances. Though no official beef played out in public, Fat Joe later admitted that the tension was real and that it started on his side. In a 2022 interview, he said, "It was all on me. I played myself thinking we were in competition. For many years, they didn't work together. That changed in 2016 when Jay-Z appeared on the remix of All the Way Up. The collaboration was brokered behind the scenes by mutual associates, including OG Juan and other longtime contacts close to both camps. It was the first time Jay-Z and Fat Joe had shared a track, and it marked the end of any lingering tension. There was never an official feud, but their silence and distance lasted more than a decade before that track brought them together. Jay-Z's success is undeniable. From strategic label leadership to empire building, his path shaped modern hip-hop legacy. Yet the narratives behind many alliances, Big Daddy Kane, Nas, DMX, Irv Gotti, Fat Joe, reveal fractures rooted in ambition, creative divergence, and perceived betrayal. Kane has hinted at being overlooked historically. Nas accused him of being derivative in Ether. 50 Cent alleged institutional blocking. DMX felt overshadowed at Def Jam. Irv saw Jay-Z distancing himself under pressure. Fat Joe felt alienated by Jay's methods. Whether viewed as calculated durability or moral compromise, Jay-Z's journey left undeniable casualties in its wake. In hip-hop culture, respect and loyalty are currency, and fans continue debating. Was he a master strategist, or did he burn through bridges to reach the top?